Hey, GLP1 Plus SideZ community. Before we jump into the podcast, please take the time to leave us a 5-star review on whatever audio platform you're listening to the podcast on. Share your story and how the podcast has helped you. This will help us get referred up in the audio platform so that we can reach more people that need our help, our support, and guidance from our doctors. Help us get loud and change things.
My name is Dr. Catherine Toomer. I'm a family medicine and community health physician, and I founded health, wellness, and weight loss centers essentially to become the doctor I needed when I was morbidly obese. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. A month after my daughter was born, I went into congestive heart failure. That was misdiagnosed as something else, mainly because I was tired. I was having difficulty breathing. Every time I moved around, I was short of breath, and I kept being told it was because of my weight. And
Ah,
so I went undiagnosed much longer than I should have, even though as a physician I knew something was wrong. I knew it was something more. But the other thing that happens with doctors, and one of the reasons why we don't treat our family members, is that we wish away pathology.
Hmm.
And so I kept trying to, I rationalize, I kept convincing myself, well, yeah, maybe that's what it is. I'm still anemic from pregnancy. Oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, whatever. Um, and so I just went along with the misdiagnosis and then almost died.
wow.
I was told at the time I had a 50% chance of living 5 years. I had a 2.5-year-old and a newborn. And I thought, this is it. I'm not going to see them grow up. They're going to grow up without a mother. And there's nothing I can do about it. Because the only thing that, if I got much worse, the only thing that would have saved me was a heart transplant. They had already told me that because of my weight, I would not be eligible.
Mm.
And so I thought, if my heart worsens, I can't get a transplant. If I don't, so the only thing I could do was focus on my diabetes. That's the only thing I could change. And I knew
Yeah.
enough to know that if I focused on my diabetes, that I could lose the weight. I was, and so that's what I did. That's what I wanted to do. And started working really hard to get my health together. At the time, I couldn't really cook. I couldn't wash myself. I couldn't take care of my children. So my husband was
Mhm.
doing everything. And he was so strict. I mean, he cut salt out of everything. He was, but he cut back on carbohydrates, but he was so concerned about my heart. That's what he was focusing on. And so
Yeah.
he was focusing on salt and I was focusing on carbohydrates, which I learned very quickly I have absolutely no willpower and discipline around food. I mean, just none.
Yeah.
And so he made sure nothing came into the house, but I still had a child to feed. We still had, family around. My mother-in-law lived a couple miles away. And so, I was still being exposed to the food that was my drug. And so, but I realized that if I focused on what I couldn't eat, I wanted it more. So I started focusing on the things that I could eat, and that was protein. So I just focused on protein. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't care what else I eat. I'm just going to make sure I get enough protein. Immediately, my blood sugar started to correct. Immediately, I started losing weight. Immediately, I started being less tired. I was still short of breath. My heart was still doing what it was doing, but I could tell the difference. I mean, just within 24 hours. And I
Amazing.
knew this as a doctor, as a primary care physician. I knew you can turn blood sugars around in 24 hours. One meal.
Yeah.
All it
Wow.
takes is one meal to prevent your diabetes.
Wow.
It doesn't prevent your body's reaction to carbohydrates, but you can get your blood sugars under control with one meal. And I knew this.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. Still ate my carbs, still ate my sweets. I just like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm like, look, I may not live in 5 years. I'm not giving up my chocolate. I'm not giving, it's like I
Aw.
still got to enjoy my life. If these are the last 5 years I'm going to have, you know, um,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
I balance, but I found the balance. But one of the things I found though, the more protein I ate, the less I craved the sweets.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
more my blood sugars were controlled, the less I could. And intellectually, I knew all this as a
Yeah.
physician who studied endocrinology, as a physician who treated diabetes, who I knew all this. I actually had helped my father reverse his diabetes already at that point.
Yeah.
So I
Wow.
knew how to do it. I
Yeah.
just had a hard time doing it for myself. But one of the things that I did during that time, I documented everything I did.
That's cool.
Everything. What my blood sugars were. How I was gaming the system. If I eat this much cake and this much protein, what happens to my blood sugars? I mean, I was really working on, I was really gaming it. So I
Kat
learned,
is a baker.
okay,
I know she can relate.
so
Let
I was
the
like,
games
okay, so if
begin.
I eat this much protein and don't have protein in my meal, I can make my potato, instead of eating potatoes, I can have dessert after. But I can only have this much dessert if I eat this much protein. I mean, really, I was really working it, and writing it all down, and realized that I had created a program for myself. There were certain things I just knew I could not be around no matter what, like Oreos. I just can't. Till this day, I just know, do not put them near me. The biggest blessing I ever discovered was when Oreos started making the 2 Oreo packets,
Oh yeah.
because I could only have 2.
Yeah.
And I couldn't eat the whole bag. It's like that, that was amazing. To me, that was a day to celebrate.
Yeah, totally.
Honestly.
I'm an Oreo girl too.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
So my biggest, hurdle is making sure I only get one. So I buy it at the gas station, but I get only one. If I make sure that I don't get more than one, and that's where the battle comes in. Don't get more than one, Catherine. Just only get one, and then walk out. And then I'll grab a Fairlife Core with 42 grams of protein. Drink it first, eat my Oreos.
That's like a
and I'm like,
cookies and
because I
cream.
know
That's
that protein's
nice.
going to counter the
I
sugar in the
know.
Oreos, and it's
That
not going to
sounds
cause me a problem.
fantastic. Yeah.
Because I know I can do that. And essentially, I know it sounds really bad, but essentially
No,
that's
it
what my
doesn't,
program
actually.
became. But that's what my program is now, is
Yeah.
helping people live their life how they want to live it without it causing them a problem.
20 seconds a week to lose 20% of your weight in a year with diet and exercise. That's the power of GLP1s through Ro. Ro helps find the medication that's right for you, based on cost, availability, and your weight loss goals. Losing weight with GLP1s is possible through Ro.
Just today, I had someone with a hemoglobin A1C of 5.3. Checked her insulin level, it was 10 times normal. And she
Wow.
couldn't figure out, you're not diabetic, you're not this. But people don't realize from insulin resistance to diabetes is like a 10 years of weight gain.
Yeah.
10 years of battling your body's reaction to blood sugars, to carbohydrates. And nobody it's just now that that people are starting to check insulin levels, and they're still checking fasting insulin levels.
Yeah.
We don't have a problem when we're fasting.
Yeah.
Right.
It happens when we've eaten. So why are you checking a fasting blood sugar and checking a fasting insulin level? Of course, I checked someone. She was like, but my insulin levels are normal. Yeah, well, so are your blood sugar. So I can tell you didn't eat before, like I told you to, before you got your lab. She was like, how did you know that? I was like, because your blood sugar is 80, but your history tells me you're having a problem with carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Redid the test. And because we used to do glucose tolerance tests, nobody orders those anymore. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was like, just get a Welch's grape juice, which has the same amount of sugar in it as a glucose tolerance test, as a glucola, which is just nasty tasting.
Yes.
So just do that. Drink it right before. Tell them it's non-fasting. Tell them I said I wanted it non-fasting, and I put on there non-fasting, and they still tell people come back when you've been fasting. I don't know why, but anyway. So she did that like I asked her, and her blood sugar was 150. Which is which when I trained, that was in and of itself a diagnosis of diabetes.
Yeah.
So her blood sugar was 150 because it was over 140 just as a spot blood sugar. And then her insulin level was, so normal is 14, high is 14. Hers was 200 and something.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh.
But her hemoglobin A1C is normal. And she kept, I don't know why everyone keeps telling me to stop eating and telling me to exercise. I go to the gym 4 times a week. I do this, I do that. I'm doing whatever. I don't understand. Why am I?
Yeah.
It's like, because you smell a carb and your body's ready to get. No, but that's actually, that's true. When people say I gained weight from smelling bread, It is
Yeah.
absolutely true. It's your brain getting ready for its drug, and it just pushes out insulin, just getting ready.
Wow.
And that means as soon as you eat, your body takes everything you've eaten and shifts it to fat instead of fuel.
Yeah.
Because that
Wow.
insulin is already there waiting for it. And so that's what was happening. And so put her on a GLP-1. Guess what happened? Her weight dropped, but guess what she was told? You're cheating.
Mm.
So
I struggled with
basically,
that.
to make a long story short, I was obese, became the doctor I wanted to become, created my program, and now I fight with people because I'm trying to counter all the brainwashing that has happened over the years,
Yes.
not
Yeah.
only in other physicians, but also in ourselves.
For those who don't know, who are maybe just getting started, who maybe are kind of afraid or just kind of
Mhm.
watching these podcasts to get educated and feel like, confident having a conversation with their doctor, there are compounded medications that are available. So like, for example, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Victoza, Saxenda, that's liraglutide, correct?
Mhm.
And
I
then
don't
we
know,
have-
actually, to be honest, I've never
I think
actually
so.
seen it compounded.
Okay, just tell
I'm
me.
sure it is, but I've never seen it.
And then we have Ozempic wegovy, which is
Mhm.
semaglutide, like you just
Yep.
mentioned. And then we have Mounjaro, which is tirzepatide.
Yes.
So those are the active ingredients, and there are
Mhm.
compound pharmacies that make them, and there are good ones and there are bad ones, but they're not all bad and they're not all good.
Right.
Yeah.
But the bad ones are so bad that that's the reason why they're
yeah.
being
We
banned.
talked a little bit about that, but I would love your 2 cents on that. And then also, if you could let us know, what did the good ones look like? And then we can
Mhm.
talk more about the banning, because I will talk to you all day long about the
Mhm.
conspiracy. Like,
So-
fight
Oh,
these
yeah.
people. So yeah.
The good
Go.
ones, the good ones require a physician's prescription
Mhm.
and not from the physician who is also selling you the medication.
Mm. Yeah.
That is the key.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever makes money off of telling you you have a pathology is the person you run as far and fast from, as
Yeah.
fast as you can.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
So
tip.
any physician who's selling it to you, any pharmacist who is selling it to you, anyone who doesn't say, "Oh, you don't need a prescription," who is not a licensed prescriber, don't take it.
Yeah. What about
Yeah.
weight loss clinics?
So okay. So if the person prescribing the medication is also the person who makes money off of that prescription,
Mm-hmm.
go somewhere else.
That's right.
That's period.
That's right.
Know your dose in milligrams.
Mhm.
The FDA approved doses are in milligrams. They're not in units. They're not in, that's it.
Yeah.
It's not in milliliters.
Mhm.
It's
Mm.
in milligrams.
Okay.
Okay.
When you know your dose in milligrams, you can tell if it's an FDA approved dosage if in milligrams, because it's very clear what those doses are. For Victoza Saxenda is one, they have, I haven't used that in so long. God,
Yeah, I
because
haven't
it's a
either.
daily
They're
one.
weird.
So I know it's like, I think it's 0.7, 1.43. I think that's what it's for Victoza. Now for Ozempic and Wegovy, so for Ozempic, it's 0.25, 0.5, 1, and now 2 milligrams.
Yeah.
Mhm.
For Wegovy, it is 0.25, 5, 1 milligram, 1.7, 2.4.
Yeah.
Mm.
And for Mounjaro, it is 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10, 12.5, 15. That's it. I actually made a flow chart and put it in my
Mhm.
link tree just for that purpose, because I was just like,
Cool.
what the hell are you taking? People are saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm taking this many units of," and I'm like,
You're like-
wait, what is
Yeah.
that?
That's what.
If you don't
And
know
why
the-
is that? Is that because of the additives and stuff that
so
they
this
put
is
in
what they're doing. They do that so that people can jump from product to product. So no one knows how much. If someone's like, I'm taking, 2 mLs of this medication. Well, what's the concentration of it? How many milligrams? You don't know what you're taking. How many
Wow.
milligrams? So if you don't know the milligrams, you can't go to another doctor and say, I need this many milligrams, or another pharmacist and say, I need this milligrams or milligrams of this medication, because you don't know what you're taking. So
Wow.
that's the other red flag. If it's not FDA, and that's why I put that information out there so people could know and ask, well, why am I on 1.2 milligrams of something that doesn't even come in a 1.2 milligram dose?
Right.
Yeah.
The other is, again, if it is, people talk about middlemen, and I understand that, and it can be confusing and it can be scary, and you just don't know. But the key is, if the person making the medicine is also the person making the money off the medicine, that is just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's just all there is to it.
Okay.
I don't know how else to put it.
What about like when people talk about, oh, some compound pharmacies have like FDA oversight and then some don't?
Okay. If they're using the salt, it is not FDA approved.
So if anybody
For
sends you salt,
if it's a salt, it's not FDA approved. If there is a vitamin attached, generally that's a clue that they're trying to get around the FDA by saying it's a supplement.
okay.
The problem now is, though, with all the bannings, the only way to get people medication is by going through loopholes, and so that's going to make it very confusing. And so what the FDA says is that if a manufacturer declares their medication a shortage, then they have to provide the raw materials for other people to make the drug.
Okay.
The FDA and the pharmacies can decide that they want the raw materials, and if they get those raw materials, they say, okay, but now you have to have FDA oversight.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's what was happening. But then what happened is, that's why there's all these lies about there not being shortages anymore, because suddenly they're claiming there's no shortage, so that those raw materials can no longer be available. So anyone using them now are considered using them illegally. But obviously there's surplus, there's stuff out there, people have it, and they're not going to just throw it away. So you go to one website, the FDA says, yes, there's a shortage. So, or no, there isn't. And then another one says there is. So basically it's really, really hard. And every day is something different. And it's really just almost impossible to know. And so all I can do is to provide access to one that I know is a good one.
Yeah.
One that I will use. If I ever lose access to, like I said, if I ever lose access to my prescription, I will use them.
Yeah.
But I can't speak for any others.
Food has definitely been a very dominant voice in my head. That's not the main focus anymore. Dieting, exercising, and adding GLP1s through Row is a game changer. I have such a sense of mental freedom since I started with Row. Food no longer controls my thoughts. Family time used to revolve around food, and now it revolves around what we're gonna go do together.
I told him, he said, what is it that gets you healthy? And it's like, generally, if you get around where you were, within 10 pounds of where you were at 21, assuming you're at a healthy weight, and you make sure that all your parameters are within normal range, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, including your weight. And if they're not, treat them. Don't avoid treating them. Don't suffer the consequences of those things being out of whack to get, just because in 6 months I'm going to be able to do X, Y, Z. In 1 year, no, you're going to be damaging yourself until that happens. So just go ahead and get it treated. So once I told him that, he did do that. That's what he did.